Welcome, in front of me is a SONY Xperia 1 Mark II, and today I will go over unboxing along with a brief overview of the device itself. So starting off, this is the box that it comes in. Honestly, it's just a flimsy box that looks really kind of cheap comparing to the price that the device costs. So let's pop it out of here. So I'll start off by saying that the device does cost about $1,100, so it is one of the most expensive smartphones, and thus I will also be judging it based on every other flagship device out there, comparing it to it, and yeah, let's see how it holds. So in here we just got some papers no one really cares about. Then we got a really trash charging brick, so it's a 21 watts. Honestly, this, for the, like I said, $1,100, this is just an insult in my opinion. I would expect a 30 at least 30. This is just a, what am I supposed to charge this device for half a night? Then we got the cable, type C to type C, and then we got some headphones. Let's pop them out. Now again, these look kind of cheap. Sony. I'm not even gonna bother checking them out really. But for instance, comparing it to something like Samsung, which comes with 8 kg, which I'm pretty sure is well, way better than what this is. Yeah, this is kind of a box of disappointment here. So I'll just set that to the side and move forward to the device itself. Hopefully it will be better. Newsflash, I don't think it is. So starting off, we got the display. It's a 6.5 inches of 1644 by 3840 pixels. Super, I believe, AMOLED display. Let me just quickly check. It's an OLED display with 1 billion colors. Just a typical 60 Hertz refresh rate, so you're not getting anything more than that. Apart from that, you have 643 pixels per inch, so it's a fairly dense display. Now, if on the video it looks a little bit weird and blurry, it might be because there is still this, as you can see, this protective layer. And also, well, it has the HDR because of the fact that it's an OLED. And apart from the display, the specs of it are, well, all cameras are 12 megapixels, at least at the back. At the front you have 8 megapixels of pure disappointment. Then you have 8 gigabytes of RAM with a Snapdragon 865 and 4000 milliamp hour battery with this disappointing 21 watt charger. So, like, I will remind that this device costs $1,100, and this is a fairly important part to the specifications of this. So, maybe I should also get out the way that most likely this device is designed for professional work. So if, for instance, you have a tripod and you walk around with a tripod in your backpack all the time, then sure, this device probably will suit you fairly well, assuming you don't want to carry a DSLR. But if you want to whip out this phone and capture some video or photo, respectively quickly, and make it look decent without actually putting much work into it and setting it up, this just falls off drastically. As an example, something like I would say even Huawei Mate 20 Pro, which is a couple-year-old device now, which I use as a daily driver still, will do just as good as this in terms of just taking a phone out and, for instance, trying to capture a night photo. Keep in mind that this device will also struggle fairly well with night photos. The Pro app, well, you need to set it up, so you need to set all the exposure times. You have to have a tripod to stabilize that stuff, and it just kind of is waste time trying to set it up. A phone, if you have a phone out, as at least personally in my opinion, phone is with a camera, I want to take it out, capture something quickly, and not have the hassle of fiddling with it just to get it set up properly for that one shot 20 minutes later that I probably already have missed. Now, as you probably see, there is the two apps. So you have the Video and Photo Pro app, and they both have really decent options here. I mean, it's a pro version of it, so if you have the time and patience for this, and you probably know what you're getting this phone for, which is more of a professional work and tweaking, then this device succeeds at this better than other devices. But the setup of this is a down draw, so you do have to have a tripod for, let's say, like videos when it comes down to filming in control environment. So when you have studio lights, stuff like that, and lighting that doesn't really change, this phone will succeed at, for instance, recording. But if you go outside and start recording some, I don't know, light area where you don't really have many shadows, then you turn around and look at the tree shadows, it will look like garbage. And that's because there is, in Pro mode, there is no auto adjustments to it. So in this case, you will be probably stuck with the default app, so the photo one, which at this point, if you're gonna be using the default app and skipping their pro version of it that you get the phone for, you'll probably have a phone that does it better than this one. Just to put that out there. And like I said, you have basically 3 sensors out here on the back, and all of them are 12 megapixels. Now, Sony apparently claims that it's because it allows them to do quicker processing. So for instance, you do have the option, which is quite interesting, to capture photos, burst shots of 24 photos per second. So you, in a way, record a video almost of photos. So that is quite nice. And also you have that dedicated button for this. Now, as you already, if you have checked it, it has the 2-phase click, so you can start holding it, and then you can actually press it further to capture a photo. Now, this does a focus, as you can see. So the moment I press it halfway, it focuses on the whatever is almost in the middle, and also it kind of slowly slides to the focus of whatever is in front of it. So as you can see, if I press it, it will try to focus in the middle, and it does it fairly well. The app works really well, but like I said, it does require some setup to it. So it is for primarily professional use, I would say. For me personally, I don't go around snapping photos everywhere, so this the part of this device or the purpose of this device just kind of falls off for me. I don't really see the value in this, and I believe even if I would be a professional photographer or videographer, I probably would be carrying a DSLR or some kind of camera for this, rather than trying to take out my phone for those moments where you just need to use the phone. Either you're doing something professionally with actual respectable equipment that is better than this, or you're trying to capture photos with a phone like everybody else. I don't really see the line here where this falls, at least personally. I still believe that there is a niche market for people that most likely will find the use for this. Maybe it's a cheap entry for someone to start recording stuff while still having a decent phone with flagship specs. But if you're just trying to get this as a phone for normal typical usage, as everybody else does, and not for the purpose of the pro aspect of cameras, then this phone isn't worth even getting or looking at. It does have a nice display, weird 21:9 aspect ratio, but it costs $1,100, and for that money, I wouldn't say, if we're cutting the cameras here, you're not really getting the bang for your buck. If you plan to use these cameras to the full potential, then yeah, probably the device is one of the only ones for you out there, and you most likely already know about that. But then what you probably don't know is you have the decent camera setup at the back, but then you have the atrocious setup of the front-facing camera, which also cannot be launched through here. You don't have actually option to go through Pro mode with the front-facing camera, so you're stuck in the normal app right here, where you can flip it over, and it will look even more. Keep in mind that this isn't really how it would look. It would look better than this. That's because of the foil right here. But from what I've seen before, it does do a little bit too much processing to that image. So either sometimes it smooths it too much, the focus on it is just completely garbage, and it's just a overly bad camera. Now, personally, I don't really care about the front-facing camera, but if I'm paying $1,100, I expect every camera, especially for the $1,100 for a phone that's supposed to succeed at camera setups, the front-facing camera just falls off drastically. I'm pretty sure some cheap device like this right here, the Realme, will capture the front-facing or the selfie cam better than this, and it costs about 1/3 of the price for this. And I do want to stress this: you're paying in a way for a flagship spec, but it falls off in terms of any kind of other flagship. Samsung S20s with well, similar specs, at least in terms of the performance of it, maybe not the cameras because they don't come with the Pro version, will succeed at everything apart from the Pro aspect of filming and taking photos, but they will most certainly trash this device in selfie. So that's probably one of the most critical parts of this device. Other than that, it lacks the typical flagship specs. Like I said, the 8 GB of RAM, it has 256 built-in storage with a UFS 3.0, so all the typical stuff that you are most likely expecting from the flagship device. And also, going back to the selfie camera once more, I just wanted to touch up on something that I missed. It captures footage at 1080p at 30 frames, so that's about all you can get from it at the best. And when it comes down to the back cameras, you do, in for instance Cinema Pro, you have the option to capture footage from the three, or at least for the main sensor. You can capture 4K at 60 frames, and it does capture it really well. I have tested it previously. So here we have 4K. Let's drop it to 59.94, basically 60 frames, and it does capture it really nicely. But like I said before, this will work the best when you have a tripod set up, when it's stable and you don't really have much of movement or trying to capture really dynamic and changing sceneries. And apart from that, you do have really nice controls off here, assuming you're in controlled environment with lights that you change yourself and then accordingly change the settings on here. For the normal typical recording of, I don't know, family events outside, where you expect stuff to basically be automatically tuned, so the brightness and contrast exposures automatically set by the camera when you're just simply filming it, this will not do it. You have to do it manually. So that's basically the part of the camera right here. So like I said, the back cameras are decent as long as you have the right setup for it. Then moving on further, like I said before, also you have the disappointing 21-watt charger for 4,000 milliamp hour battery, non-removable. Then if we lock it, oh, that's not the locking key. And when we lock it, we can actually go look around. So on the left side, you have the SIM tray and SD tray. It does take SD cards, so if you want to expand storage, you can. Then at the top, you do have a headphone jack. Not really sure how I feel about it. In 2020, I already came fully used to wearing and using wireless headphones, earbuds, whatever it is. So I don't care anymore about the headphone jack. I'm pretty sure there are still people that will care, so it's a nice touch that they did add it here for those people that are still using wired accessories. Then you have the microphone, not really important, volume rocker right here, and then fingerprint sensor and a power key in one, which is an improvement over the previous version, which had a fingerprint sensor and then power key below that. Not exactly sure why they did it that way in the first version, but yeah. And then the camera shutter button, so that is still the same as it was in the previous version. And then at the bottom we have the charging port, so USB Type-C and a microphone. And at the back you can see we have the camera setup, so we have the triple camera setup right here, flash, also NFC, typical stuff for a flagship device, I would say. And at the back it's a fairly clean look, although personally I would prefer to have smaller bezels on top, maybe a hole punch camera, or well, maybe motorized one, considering this camera is kind of useless anyway. And at the bottom you don't have almost anything. So you can see there is the grill for when you talk to someone, and that's about it here. Now it does have a bezel, as you can see. That's the bezel, so it's bigger than it is on the side, and the same thing goes for the top. They're basically the same size. And yeah, I would say that this would probably conclude the overview. I focused primarily on the camera because that's who the device is catering to, the people that want to get into camera work with their phone. And I felt like this probably would be the primary use of this device, assuming you're spending 1,100 euros or dollars on this device. You're probably looking for it specifically to capture either video or photo with a professional grade. So that's why I did focus on that aspect. And like I said, if you're looking for a phone that can do this, then you probably already are set in buying this device, and you're just looking for someone to, in a way, maybe verify that it is worth buying, which I personally cannot do that. Partially because I'm not a pro photographer or videographer, so this device won't apply to me, nor will I ever be able to use it to the fullest extent. But from what I can gather, figure out myself from usage and from other people's reviews about it, it does lack in terms of usability. So that is just how I'm getting this. But other than that, it comes with flagship specs, just like every other flagship. This released in 2020, basically similar specs. So it's more of an idea. If you're not getting this for the cameras, if you want to spend, for instance, $1,100 for just this specific looking device, that's about how I could have most certainly, or more accurately describe the purchase of this device. Because if we look at it, for instance, the Samsung S20, Ultra, I think costs about the same. So it will look differently. It has a different skin. This comes almost with a default Android, so you don't have any kind of overlay. For instance, like Samsung has the One UI or any other device with their skins. So this is, I would say, a stock version of it. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's more of when you're getting a flagship phone, if this is just the device that you want to get, or do you prefer something that has just a little bit different features, for instance, better charging speeds and better battery, along with, for instance, different aspect ratio, and yeah, I would say that's probably it. But yeah, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.